Yeah, rose coders. Every month they hit rose coders. I'm telling you, like clockwork. Take me. Let's see what I got here. December? Yeah, that was oh, and the Torah view. That's fun. I mean, the Torah reading is really not bad. No, it's really bad. Yeah. Find the third time. Yeah. I'm waving at them. I'm waving at them. You can come and wave to them if you want. Let's see who's on. No, you count. Of course you count. Oh, nice crowd on the Zoomer. Oh, and we have a double chai on tonight. That's cool. Yeah, we have a double chai. Who is behind that double chai? It was 1818.
Yes, it's funny. I flipped through the journal. I didn't see it till my daughter said, "Oh, Ari's in the journal." That's great. Yeah. He teaches himself.
You might as well watch everybody.
Yeah, I'm thrilled about it. 12, bar mitzvah, November. Getting his lessons prepared. I expect him to do everything. Yeah. No, he's a confident kid. Oh, that's right. I have to say, I have so many clocks in my house. It's just unbelievable. When we change the clocks, it takes me at least an hour to walk around the house, and I always miss something. Stove, microwave. Oh, a little switch. And then I have some radios I just really can't
Good
figure out
evening.
how to do it. I
Shabbat
have to go to the
Shalom. It is
instruction
now
manual.
8 p.m. and we will be starting our service. Good evening. Shabbat Shalom. It is now 8 p.m.
Oh,
And Rabbi
well,
Bernie's going to start.
yes, that's correct. Well, we'll start off with a little nigun like we usually do, and please join me. I'm sure you know the tune by now. Ya da 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 ya da 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 da.
People at home, join us in.
Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da
Come on,
da.
baby, sing louder.
Da da.
Yeah,
Ya da
come on,
da.
Mona, sing.
Ya da 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 da. Da da. Ya da da.
Howard, sing.
Ya da 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 da.
Boom, boom, boom.
Ya da 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 da.
I see the Rubens. The Rubens are singing.
Ya
Yeah.
da da
And
da
Lila.
da da
else are
da.
The
Ya
Spitzers
da
are
da
singing.
da
And
da
the
da
Saskins are singing, and the
da
rest
da
of them have their
da.
microphones. and
Ya
cameras.
da 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 da.
Oh, man, it looks great out there.
Bim.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh.
It looks great there too, and here too.
Oh,
Sorry
yeah,
about
look
that.
at that.
The do the bim bum.
We got a lot of people.
Yeah, we
Bim,
do. Big crowd
bum,
tonight.
bim, 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 bum. Bim, 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 bum, boom, boom. Bim, bum, bim, 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 bum. Bim, 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 bum. Shabbat shalom. Hey, Shabbat shalom. Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom.
Hey,
Shabbat shalom.
Yes.
Hey, Shabbat shalom.
yay.
Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, Shalom. Yes, Shabbat, 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 Shalom.
Boom, 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 boom. Everybody at home having a good time? Thumbs up. Good. Glad you joined us tonight. All right, Esther, you haven't been giving us good news in a few weeks. You got any good news
Yeah,
for
we
us
missed
this
you
week,
last
Esther?
week.
I was gonna say for next week, but this coming week, Esther has a birthday.
And Neil, how old is, oh, never mind. Never mind. Happy, healthy birthday, Esther.
And this coming week, Anita Horowitz has a birthday.
Yes.
She's watching, so
They share
happy
the
birthday,
day.
Anita. Happy birthday. This is awesome. Great. Anyone else with some good news on this side? I'm coming to come over here. Yes.
We had 4 fabulous families lead us in lighting the Hanukkah on Zoom. So it was wonderful to see young children singing, and it's on YouTube and on our website if you haven't seen it.
Go up to our website, go to the holiday page and take a look at each night. They're there and they'll be there forever, forever. Anybody else have some good news? No? Nothing good back there, huh? Anything good over here? Okey dokey on this side. Hold on one sec.
Tomorrow, my son Jonathan, the Yohamatan, which means a gift of God, will be 46, and he was a gift of God.
Happy birthday,
happy
Richard.
birthday.
Happy birthday. Did you say you had
46.
something, Gail?
No, I had nothing to say.
Gail has nothing to say? I'm not sure if that falls under the category of good news. I love you, you know.
Well,
All
Gail,
right.
you can say another 2 to 3 weeks before tax season starts, right?
Loretta.
After 3 weeks, Kat and Miles are home and I miss them and he's grown and I got to squeeze my grandson today. First time in 3 weeks.
Beautiful news. There's nothing better than that. All good news. All right, Rabbi, I think we did it.
Sounds good. Good to have good news.
Did you folks enjoy the good news that we had here? Oh my God, they're all shaking their head. No. Just playing with you. All right, time for us to begin. Page 13, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Nile Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch
Now we
Hu.
turn to page 14.
Yedid nefesh avarachaman mishach avdach el ritzonach hiarutz avdach kemo ayal yishtachave el muhadarach yerav lo yedidutach mino fetzuf v'chol ta'am yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 yada dai 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 dai.
And on page 14, let's read together at the bottom. Dear God,
Dear
help
God,
us now to make this a new Shabbat. After noise, we seek quiet. After crowds of indifferent strangers, we seek to touch those we love. After concentration on work and responsibility, we seek freedom to meditate, to listen to our inward selves. We open our eyes to the hidden beauties and the infinite possibilities in the world you are creating. We break open the gates of the reservoirs of goodness and kindness in ourselves and in others. We reach toward one holy, perfect moment
in
of
Shabbat.
Shabbat. Page 15, Lechuna Ranana.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, ladonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, ladonai. Naria, letzor yeshenu nikadma, fana betoda. Naria, litzor yeshenu, bezmirot naria lo, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladonai, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena ladonai. Ki hagdol Adonai Malkuto, v'Elohim Hashem B'kol Torah. Arbaim shana kut bedor v'omaram toev levavhem v'hem lo yedu drachai Hashem nishbati v'yapi im yavon el menuchati.
Let's turn to page 17 tonight. 17, and we'll read responsibly. Adonai is sovereign. Let the world rejoice.
God's throne is founded on justice. Though God be clouded from view, divine justice reveals God's presence.
God's lightning illumines the earth. Fire consumes God's foes. Mountains melt like wax before Adonai. The earth trembles.
The heavens proclaim God's righteousness. All people behold God's majesty.
Shame covers those who worship idols, those who take pride in revering images which must themselves bow low before God.
Hearing of your judgments, Adonai, Zion exults and the cities of Judah rejoice.
You are supreme over all the earth, highly exalted beyond all that is worshipped.
Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the faithful and saves them from the wicked.
Light is stored for the righteous, joy for the honorable.
Rejoice in Adonai, you who are righteous. Acclaim the holiness of God's name. Oh, have Adonai, sinura, shomer nafshos chasidav, mi'ed rishayim yatzilein. Oh, zavol atzadik ul yishrei lev simcha, simchu tzadikim badonai, v'hodu l'zeker kadsho.
And now we'll turn to page 20. Let's rise. Mizmor David on page 20.
Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai, b'nei elim, havu l'Adonai, kavod va'os, havu l'Adonai, kevod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai, b'hadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai, al mayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai Behadar, Kol Adonai Shover Arazim, Vaishavir Adonai et Arzei Havanon, Vayakidem Kimo Egel, Lebanon Visirion, Kimo, Ven Re'emim, Kol Adonai, Kotev Lahavodesh, Kol Adonai, Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai, Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai, Kol Elayalot, Vayachasov Ye'aron, Uvekalo Kulo, Omer Kavod, Adonai Lamavu Yashav, Vayeshav Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Ozli Amo Yitain, Adonai Yevarech et Amo Vashalom.
You may be seated, page 21, Lechadodi.
Lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nikabela. Shamo v'zacho b'dibor echad. Hishmiyanu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shemu teferet b'lit hila. Lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nikabela. Mikdash melech melucha, kumitzi mitoch hafecha, Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha, vehu yachamol alayich chemla, lecha dodi lekrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela, hitorari, kiva ore kumi ori, ori shitaberi, kivod Adonai alayich nigla, lecha dodi lekrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela, ve'ayulim shisa sho sayich, v'rachaku komev alayich, yasis alayich Elohayich, kim soska tanal kala, lecha dodi lekrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Bowi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzahala, toch emune am tzigula, bowi chala, lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela.
And you may be seated, page 23, the Psalm for Shabbat. It is good to acclaim Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God.
To affirm your love each morning and your faithfulness each night, to the music of the lute and the melody of the harp.
Your works, Adonai, make me glad. I sing with joy of your creation.
How vast your works, Adonai, your designs are beyond our grasp.
The thoughtless cannot comprehend, the foolish cannot fathom this.
The wicked may flourish, springing up like grass, but their doom is sealed, for you are supreme forever.
Your enemies, Adonai, your enemies shall perish. All the wicked shall crumble.
Of me you have greatly exalted. I'm anointed with fragrant oil. I've seen the downfall of my foes, and I've heard the despair of my attackers.
The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the courts of our God.
And they shall bear fruit even in old age, and they shall be ever fresh and fragrant, to proclaim Adonai is just my rock, in whom there is no flaw.
4 lines from the bottom, 23.
Tzadikatamar yefrach ke'erez bavanon yizkeh shitolim b'veit Adonai b'chatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvon b'sema Deshenim verananim yeyo lehakid yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlatabu.
Page 24.
And I'm a look at the base list. Edotecha ne'amnu me'od levechan avakodesh Adonai liorech yamim.
And those of you saying Kaddish or observing a Yortzeit will now rise. Rabbi Bernie will lead you in the Mourner's Kaddish, page 24.
V'yit gadal, v'yit gadash, shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma dibra kirute v'yamlik malchute. V'chaye chon of yomechon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Bagalau v'zman kariv v'yamru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'me'omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei dikucha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiram v'alma v'yamru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mrama. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen.
Amen. Page 28, please rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevarach.
Baruch Adonai Amporach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevarach le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated. We continue silently on page 28.
Umavir yamamei v'layla, umavdil ben yamamei layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai, Amari barabim, ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha havta, Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shachbeinu u'fkumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla. V'yavatcha tasim imenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Oheb Amo Yisrael.
Page 30.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Yahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol avavcha b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Elohim etzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shitecha b'beitecha U'v'lechtecha b'derech, u'v'shakbecha, u'v'kumecha, u'kashatam liot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha, u'katavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'v'yisharecha. It's sounding to the bottom of the page. Yeah, sure. למען ירבו ימיכם וימי בניכם על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיכם לתת להם מהשמיים על הארץ.
And page 31 together.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף ותל תכלת והיה לכם לציצית הוריתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
Page 32.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה בני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא נורא תהילות עושה פלא מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר יום לפני משה זה אלינו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי באדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
Shemo.
גאל ישראל.
Let's read together on the top of page 33. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace and guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praise are you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
ושמור צאתנו ובאנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו, ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים.
Now we rise for the Vishamru on top of page 34. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beni uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti li'olam, oti li'olam, oti li'olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et Hashabbat la'asot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'yet haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et Hashabbat la'asot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamadi brachi rutei v'yamlich malchutei
B'chayechon
u'vyomeichon
U'v'chayecho Beit Yisrael Bagala U'bizman Kariv Yimaru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'alam Le'omaya Yitbarach
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'romam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei v'gudusha
Barichu
v'richu le'yela min kovechata b'shirata tushvechata v'nechemata damiram b'yama v'yimaru. Amen.
So remain standing for the silent Amidah. It's on 35A or B, your choice. Goes through page 38. And please remember, it's Rosh Chodesh and Hanukkah. So please remember, put in those inserts. And when you're done, you may be seated. And the Chazan will continue now on the top of page 38.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amecha Yisrael b'chol eit u'b'chol shah v'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. And now Rabbi Bernie is going to lead you page 38, middle of the page, to the word Redeemer as we read together.
My God, keep my tongue from evil and my lips from lies. Help me ignore those who would slander me. Let me be humble before all. Open my heart to your Torah, that I may pursue your mitzvot. Frustrate the designs of those who plot evil against me. Make nothing of their schemes. Act for the sake of your compassion, your power, your holiness, and your Torah. Answer my prayer for the deliverance of your people, and may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. Oh, say shalom bimromav, bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. V'yal kol Yisrael, Yisrael, v'yimru, imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael. V'yamaru. Amen.
May the one who brings peace to his universe bring peace to us, to all the people of Israel, the Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, and all who dwell on this earth. And let us say,
Amen. Amen.
Turn to page 47. We'll ask you to rise for Vayechulu.
Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam. Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi v'lachto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikom melachto asher asa. Vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i. Vayikadesh oto, kivo Shabbat mikom melachto, kivo Shabbat mikom melachto, asher bara Elohim, asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Konei Shamayim
You may be
V'Aretz.
seated.
Magen Avod Bidvarod, Mechaye Metim B'Ma'amaro, Ha'el Hakadosh She'en Kamohu, Hamediach Le'amo, Yom Shabbat Kadsho, Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem, Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem, Lefanav Navod, V'rava fachad, v'nodeh lishmo, b'chol yom tamid, me'on habrachot, el hahodaot, Adon hashalom, mikadesh hashabbat, umevarek shvi'i, umeniach b'gdusha, v'yamadush neoneg, zecher, lemase v'reishi. Eloheinu v'layavotenu, ritzei b'mnuchatenu, kadshenu b'mitzvotecha, v'tekokenu b'toratecha, salbenu mituvecha, v'samchenu v'shuatecha, v'taher libenu, v'avdecha be'emet, v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ahava u'ratzon Shabbat kodshecha, v'nuchuva Yisrael, mikadesh shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh Shabbat.
And before we do the Kaddish Shalem, I am going to include the prayer for healing. And we'll do that now. If you wish to say the name or names of people who may be ill, when I stop, you may do so. We pray for people who are ill with all different diseases. Of course, now I know so many people again who are suffering from the COVID. It's back, and we know people again. And so we ask that God heal all people who are ill. Misha berach avoten Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yivarech v'yarafei et. Kol ha'chalim b'kehila kadosha kadosh v'rachim yalei rachamim aleihem lahachazi kam rufuratam bishlach lemera. Refuah shlema min hashemayim v'frat hanefesh v'frat haguf b'dok shechel Yisrael shabbatim elizok ufo karavo labo. Hashta b'gar b'zman kariv and omar amen. May God bring blessing and healing to all those we mentioned, all those we know of, those we pray for on our personal list, those who suffer illness within the congregational family. May the Holy One mercifully restore them to health and to vigor, granting them physical and spiritual well-being together with people everywhere who may be ill. Misha be'erach avotenu, mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha be'erach imotenu, mikor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Page 48. Yikarav yikarash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Yamad divrach yirutev, v'yamach maltev v'chaychon v'yamechon v'chaychon b'Yis Yisrael. Bagalav izman kariv yamaru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabbam nevarach. Le'olam olam me'omaya
Yitbarach.
Yivarach v'yishtabach v'yivar v'yirmam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yilav v'yilav shmei kodesha v'richu li'elam min kol v'chata b'shirata tush v'chata v'nechmata damiram v'yama v'yimru. Amen.
Amen.
Dekabal sotor avodon decha Yisrael kadam v'honde v'shmai v'yimru.
Amen.
Amen. Yehesh nam rabba min shemai v'chamalei v'chayz rabba yimru.
Amen.
Amen. Oseh shalom v'imramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru.
Amen.
So Rabbi, last week you complained that the wine was not good. So I bought you a whole brand new bottle. It says brand new,
Well, it's still
just open.
Oh, it's still made of
Well,
Sherwood's country.
this is a good vintage
Oh, that's a
year.
good one, yeah. It's,
Yeah, Tuesday.
yeah, no, it's not a bad wine, you know.
You can wine all you want.
Thank you.
Please rise, page 49.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kadsho b'hava ratzon hichilanu, zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit, Yehu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'chata, Yotanu kidashta mikamim b'shabbat kadshecha mi'ahava u'ratzon kaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat. Maybe seated. That was good. So sweet. So I had a dilemma tonight. I was thinking, what am I going to talk about tonight? And we have Hanukkah here, so I want to talk about Hanukkah. And we have Joseph coming out of prison, meeting Pharaoh, and all these different things. And I figured, what do people know more about? And my guess was Joseph and getting out of prison and interpreting Pharaoh's dream about the 7 good years, 7 bad years, and he gets appointed viceroy, meets his brothers. But when I think of Hanukkah, I think that most people, if you ask the ordinary Jewish person, what's Hanukkah all about? They would say, oh yeah, well, the Maccabees came and then they got the temple back after fighting the Greeks, cleaned it up. They found some oil, it lasted 8 days, and that's Hanukkah. So there's so much before that. That part and the middle part is a small part. And then there's so much after that. And when I ask people, just started to say, hey, do you know what happened before Hanukkah? Nobody really knows. So that's what I decided to talk about tonight. So it's like a history class, try not to fall asleep, but I'll try to make it exciting. But I want to give you some background first, because it's really something, because the little bit of the background really kind of gives us a sense of how we behave today. So at about 1000 BCE, the family of David ruled and the descendants of Aaron officiated as the high priest, which was what it was supposed to be. About 400 years later, 10 tribes of the northern kingdom were captured by the Assyrians. Now, why the 10 tribes went north? Because they didn't agree with the house of David and wanted to do their own thing, kind of control the government. It was a political thing. So 10 of them left. But what happened to them was they made their own temple and they started worshiping golden calves, completely opposite of what we were taught to do. So anyways, the Assyrians kind of absorbed them. The Judeans, which was left, comprising of the tribe of Judah and Benjamin, that's what was left, joined the Egypt to fight the Babylonians. Who's the Babylonians? Iraq. That's modern day Iraq today. They wanted to start to take over the whole Middle East. So unfortunately, they lost in 597 BCE. Nebuchadnezzar, who was in charge of Babylon at that time, sent the exiles into Babylon. Then there was another uprising later on. They got sent to Babylon too. So now the Jews of Babylon, they didn't lose their identity. They chose not to work on Shabbat or the Shalosh Regalim in memory of the old days. And they observed days of fasting too. By these observances, the Jews were separated from the Babylonians. Jews lived in groups like today, like in Peabody, Marblehead, Swampscott, Newton, Brookline, Brighton. They met on Shabbat and special holidays, but there was groupie communities in Babylonia. And I want you to know, they really kept the Judaism there too, because our Talmud is called the Babylonian Talmud. All of the sages sat down and still kept this Jewishness going. So since there were no sacrifices, they sang temple songs instead. We do that today. The Shir Shel Yom, we do the Psalm of the Day. That came from temple times. And sometimes the prophet would read the Torah or written works from other prophets. So Cyrus, I think another name for him was Xerxes too, I'm not 100% sure. He became of Medes and Persia, conquered Babylonia, and gave the Jews a chance to rebuild. Eventually, a little modest temple was built. Nehemiah, who was a prophet at that time, actually was hanging out in Babylonia, wherever you want to call it Babylon, came back down to Israel. And Ezra, who was a scribe, reestablished the Torah as the constitution for the new community. Ezra introduced reading the Torah on Shabbat Monday and Thursday. That was Ezra idea. Mondays and Thursdays, because that's when people used to get together at the marketplace. And when people used to congregate together, they read the Torah. And he developed a service as well. Ezra was called the restorer of the Torah, second to Moses. Ancient Hebrew script changed too. The alphabet became a little easier. Scribes taught at community houses, which advanced the development of the synagogue. Meanwhile, smaller nations were being swallowed up by Greece. The Greek name for Greece is Hella, Hella. Hellenization was the spread of Greek culture, etc., on foreigners. Greeks called the land between the Mediterranean and the Jordan Philistina, because they only knew of the Philistines who lived on the coast. So that's where we get Palestine, I guess, from that same word. They weren't aware that Jews were still living in the area because they kept getting conquered and moved around. In 334 BC, Alexander the Great of Macedonia conquered Persia and became ruler of all the Persian provinces. Israel, of course, or whatever you want to call it at that time, was part of that. Jews left Judea, though, to go west to Greece and the Black Sea and the Mediterranean coast to seek new adventure. They learned the Greek language and their customs and ideas. Alexander and his successor Ptolemy had planned Alexandria as a commercial port to be populated by the mix of all the people from the conquered nations. It became the largest commercial port ever. Jews and others settled there voluntarily. This was the first time that Jews left Israel voluntarily. You have to realize they were there on their land, and any time they left, it was because they were exiled, they got beat up or kicked out. This time they said, you know what, I think I'm going to travel. It reminds me of like Europe. They said, let's go to America. In those days, it was like say, hey, let's go to Alexandria. Jews still, though, didn't accept the Hellenistic way of life and remained separate. However, there were still some who assimilated. Now we come to Antiochus IV. Ooh. He had ambitions of a large empire. It was a little different with Alexander the Great. He felt that each one could do their own thing, get a little Greek culture, but let them survive and prosper under their own. Not so with Antiochus. Hellenization, though, made the least progress where in Judea, of course. With unwillingness of Jews to be Hellenized, he gave the orders that Judaism was to be destroyed. A part of the Syrian army, now you say, why Syria? Because Syria was really under the control of the Greeks at that time, but they still had some flexibility to do their thing. So part of the Syrian army marched in Jerusalem to support Melanos. Who's Melanos? He was a Greek appointed high priest. So they still appointed high priests in Judea, but they weren't Jewish. Many were killed. Orders were given prohibiting Shabbat, holidays, circumcision, kashrut. A statue of Jupiter was put above the altar. A pig was sacrificed in the temple on the 25th day of Kislev. That sounds familiar? That's a Hanukkah day, 25th Kislev, on the year 168 BCE. Modi'in, which happened to be a town of Jerusalem, northwest of Jerusalem, had a respected priestly descendants called Hasmoneans. The father was, we know, Matityahu. Sons were, did you know he had 5 sons? Shimon, Eliezer, Yehuda, Yochanan, and Yehonatan. So the Syrians set up an altar in Modi'in to sacrifice a pig. Matityahu said, I'm not taking part of this at all. Then a Hellenizer Jew, one who wanted to convert to Greek, he says, I'll do it. So he went forward to do the task. Matityahu had no point of that. He grabbed the sword of the captain who was in charge at that time, killed the Hellenizer, and then he killed the captain. And then everybody stepped in and killed all the soldiers. That was a rebellion. They went to the hills, became guerrilla fighters, and they had followers too. And they declared the famous quote, whoever is for God, let him come unto me. Me Adonai Eli. Where did we hear that from? Who else said that once in history? Anybody know? Whoever is for God, let him come to me. Moses. Why did Moses say that? He came down from the mountain and he saw them worshiping the idol, the golden calf, and he threw down and he stood there and he says, whoever is for God, come to me. And who came to his side? The Levites. And that's why they became Israel's firstborn and took over that right. And kind of, how should I say, when Levi and Shimon went and killed all of the males in Shechem because they took Dinah, they were kind of cursed. And Jacob said, oh, you guys are so wild with your swords. But they redeemed themselves at this particular time with Moses. So anyways, not to get into the Moses thing. And he said, come with me. So he got a lot of people, Mattatyahu. But he died soon after. Judah took over. He was the third son. He was called a Maccabee, Judah the Maccabee. Some say the acronym is from Mi Chamocha Ba'Elohim Adonai. Took the first letters from that. Some others say it's from the Hebrew word makevet, which means a hammer. So they won some small battles, but then came a big battle. It was called the Battle at Emmos, E-M-M-A-U-S. Antiochus, he had to fight the Parthians in the northeast because of the Romans were kind of taken over. And he left matters into the hands of a general called Lysias. He lost to Judah. The road to Jerusalem was now open. After 3 years, I don't know why it took 3 years, the temple was finally cleaned. That's a big cleaning job. They should have hired professionals. But anyways, Zeus was ground to dust. So on the 25th day of Kislev, the same day that they sacrificed the pig in the temple, in 165 BCE, the temple was rededicated, Chanukah. A cruise of oil for one day lasted 8 days. It became the first Hanukkah. So now comes the part that we didn't learn in Hebrew school. That's usually the end of the story. Yay, let's light some candles. There was no peace after the dedication. Pagans in Jaffa drowned 200 Jewish people, and there were other atrocities as well. Syrians under Lysias brought a large army, forcing the Maccabees to retreat. Brother Eliezer died in the battle. Lysias offered a peace deal, as long as the Syrians were to remain a sovereign power in Judea and the right to appoint the high priest. Judah said, no, this isn't what we're going to do. He was outvoted. He left. Old ways came back under Syrian rule, just as we expected. The Hasidic leaders, they were called Hasidim. So by the way, Hasidim in those days were just called religious people. Not that the Hasidim we know today, oh, they are religious people, but that's really what it stemmed from. Hasidim in the old days was called religious people. They were seized and executed. A large Syrian army came, and at Battle Judah, he only had 800 men. Judah died in that battle as well. The three remaining brothers, Shimon, Yochanan, and Yonatan, and several hundred soldiers fled across the Jordan to disappear. So after a period of time, somewhere between 150, 140 BCE, during a bitter Syrian civil war, and it's happening again today, isn't it? Yonatan, who was looked upon as a leader, came down, he returned, and he became the high priest and the governor of Judea and a member of the Syrian nobility as well. Brother Shimon became the governor of the Philistine coast. Jonathan was slain by a Syrian general because he became too close to the Romans. Shimon took over. He died about 5 years later, and his son John Hirkin took over. However, the old conflict within the Jewish people revived. Which was more important, they said, religious welfare or national strength? Hence the beginning of various Jewish political parties that eventually led to our demise. And here we are today with the same religious differences and politics that have our people split in half, or thirds anyways. Let's hope and pray that this Hanukkah begins the unification of all Jews, no matter where they live. So with that, Shabbat Shalom, happy Rosh Chodesh, and have a good Hanukkah too. It's the same story over and over in our history, unfortunately. One day it will change for the good.
And let us say amen.
Amen to that.
Yeshua Koach, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Let's turn to page 51, and we're going to rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabbat l'adon hakol, l'tekedu l'aliotze bereshit, shelo asan k'gei haratzon, v'lo samanu k'mishvot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'gar aleinu k'kol ha'nolam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשחווים ומודים לפני מלך המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ משה יקרו בשמיים עמך ושכינת עוזו בגבי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אחד Emet Malkeinu Efesulato, Kakato V'Torato, Yadata Yom Hashivota, El Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Bashamayim Imal, V'Haaretz, Mitachat Einon, Einon. Kakatu b'Torah Techa Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed V'Ne'ema V'Hayalai L'Melech HaChorets V'Yom Ha'u Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shema Echad U'Shema
You may be seated. This week, the congregation will lovingly recall the yortzites of Harry L. Cohen, Jeanette Hannah Cohen, Eugene Denbo, Jacob Louis Feinstein, Arthur Barbash, Mabel Scheinhardt, Jacqueline Chait, Deborah Miriam Kleekstein, Sarah Pon, Robert Sock, William Zide, Molly Levine, Herman Leonard Shaw, Raymond Chait, Harry A. Cohen, Molly Felick, Charles H. Sherman, Minna Sarah Annis, Jeanette Feinstein, Oscar Picard, Barry Anson, and Ruth Rater. Are there any other yortzites? May the faith that binds us to our loved ones be a continuing source of comfort as we invite those mourning and observing the yortzeit to rise now as we recite the words of the Kaddish, page 52. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. V'yalmad yivrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, b'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'gala u'bizman kari v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam, u'amei olmaya. Yiparach, v'yishtabach, v'yipa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei d'kudusha, b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata, v'shirata, tushbachata, v'nechemata, da'amiram v'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yamru
Amen.
amen. Well, it's Hanukkah, so let's turn to page 81 and we'll recite the Psalm 30, which has to do with the dedication of the temple, and it is recited after the Kaddish, normally on Hanukkah. Rabbi, would you lead it? Page
Absolutely.
81.
A psalm of David, a song for the dedication of the temple. I extol you, Adonai, you raised me up. You did not permit foes to rejoice over me.
Adonai, I cried out and you healed me. You saved me from the pit of death.
Sing to Adonai, you faithful, acclaim God's holiness.
God's anger lasts a moment. Divine love is lifelong. Tears may linger for a night. Joy comes with the dawn.
While at ease, I once thought nothing can shake my security. Favor me, and I'm a mountain of strength. Hide your face, Adonai, and I'm terrified.
To you, Adonai, would I call. Before the eternal would I plead.
What profit is there if I am silenced? What benefit if I go to my grave? Will the dust praise you? Will it proclaim your faithfulness?
Hear me, Adonai. Be gracious. Be my help.
You transformed my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robes of joy, that I might sing your praise unceasingly, that I might thank you, Adonai, my God, forever.
As we turn back to page 52, again, the mourner's Kaddish is recited, page 52. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'gala u'bizman kari v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam, u'lamei olmaya, yiparach v'yishtabach, v'yipa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit haleh, v'yit halal.
Shemei
Shemei d'kudusha barichu.
Let
Le'ela min kol birchata b'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Dami ram b'alma v'yamru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru.
Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Mr. Richard Strauss has tonight's announcements. Richard?
Shabbat Shalom. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 virus has raised its ugly head again. The positivity rate is over 5%. There were 5,000 cases this 2 or 3 days in a row this week. There were 1,000 deaths the last couple of days. And as a consequence, we at the temple are asking all of you, when they come to the synagogue, to please wear a mask. It's mandatory. It's not really, it's a commandment. So, but please understand that it's for all our good and welfare. So Saturday morning services are at 9:30 a.m. in person and in Zoom. And then again, just an aside, we really would like to have 10 people here so that we can take the Torah out. The rabbi has said that we need to have 10 people in person. You count from Indian on Zoom, but not for taking the Torah out. So if you can join us tomorrow morning, please do. Sunday morning services are at 9 a.m. in person and in Zoom, and evening services Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. again in person and in Zoom. And there is still some activity at the temple. On Monday at 6 o'clock, there's Zumba. On Tuesday at noon, there's the bridge, and at Tuesday 8 p.m. is Israeli dancing. And Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. is total body strengthening class. Again, social action and religious school are continuing to collect new toys, books, and art supplies. So if you could, please bring unwrapped items to the synagogue by Sunday, December 5th. Also, the Jewish Family and Children's Services is collecting new kids' pajamas. So if you can bring those in by Sunday, that would also be appreciated. On Sunday evening, December 5th at 6:30 p.m., Sisterhood will be holding a Hanukkah trivia night on Zoom. So contact Loretta Van after Shabbat for more information. And on Sunday, December 5th through the 19th, the Men's Club auction commences. And we, of the Men's Club, would appreciate your helping us out. It's our major fundraiser. We really need your support. Let's see, on Monday, December 6th at 7, I could read my own writing, 45 p.m. There will be a town meeting to explain to the whole congregation exactly what's going on. And all that is happening at the temple is available on the website. So take a gander at that. Shabbat Shalom and Chanukah Sameach to everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard, for that. Appreciate it.
We're going to finish tonight a little different than we normally do. Adon Olam, page 54, to the magical tune of Ma'od Sur. Adon Olam Hashem Allah b'terem kol yitzin nivra li'et nasa v'chefson kol azay melev shemon nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimlok nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu echad v'yet sheni lehamshil lo lehachbira b'li reshi b'li tachlit v'lo ha'od v'ha'misra v'hu eli v'chai goli v'tzochem li b'yet Torah v'hu nisi umanos li Menat kosi b'yom mekra b'yado avkid ruchi b'yet dishan b'yaira v'yimruchi kiviyati Adonai li v'lo yira. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
And Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov. The big three.
It's the big three.
Big three.
The big shoe tomorrow. We'll see you all. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
That's a lot.